All right, so I thought I'd go in and to Gary's room and listen, and I wasn't planning to take part too much because I'm programming late, and that's what I was going to do. But as soon as I went in there, Gary started yelling at me, saying they'd unsubscribed me, and basically just started this tirade where he challenged certain things. So I tried to explain what I was really talking about, and he can't take it, and I'm pretty fed up with this. But it's not like it's a new thing. But I sort of have. It's like if I understand exactly what's going to happen, I'm not going to walk around this path because I know the path. I just do that long enough to find the path, and it's like Gary, you have a confused sense of what you say the room. You want the room to be popular, but you're going to block me when you know and ban me when you know people like to see us argue, and you know that I'm going to, try to keep up my side of the argument, and I'm going to try to explain things to you. You don't seem to understand that. No, you haven't just absorbed the reality of someone's message just because you thought you'd do blah blah blah. Like Gary thought that because I'm talking about spirituality, I'm talking about life after death and blah, blah, blah. No, my point is specifically that it's just that we have a certain kind of feeling that we call spirituality, spiritual feelings. What's going on when we have that feeling will probably tell us about that, just like lust. What's going on? Well, we found out that had to do with the DNA wanting us to reproduce. Now, that seems pretty clear to me that I'm making this a tangible thing, right? But it doesn't matter how explicit because people are like, I have a filter and the word spirituality only comes through a cheese grater where it means a life after death, life after death. No, if I say, hey, there's a feeling that they called having getting the goosebumps. Oh, goosebumps is life after death. It's life after death. Or like a lot of you are stupid enough that you are now going to think that I'm relating spirituality and goosebumps. Like goosebumps is a spiritual feeling. No, you're just stupid. You can't understand things when they're explicitly stated to you. And this relates to what I was describing as some epiphanies, where I feel if I give you that information, you should be able to understand it, people, Garys of the world, and you can't. And the empathy, if I was to have it, would be that I need to put it in a bullshit form. Well, fuck that in the case of spirituality. That's not why I'm here, okay? I'm going to continue to discuss the facts and be explicit, right? Now, there is a feeling, right, that is this, like a feeling of awe or something that has its own characteristic, just like hunger for food is distinct from lust, is distinct from a feeling of appreciation of beauty. Now, the feeling of appreciation of beauty has a very similar flavor as this, what I'm calling the spiritual feeling. But the spiritual feeling can happen in situations that are not beautiful. So I don't know. How do we sort that out? Now, Gary wanted to say right before he blocked me like 3 minutes into me being there, that it's a fucked up, shitty feeling. God damn it! So I'm not supposed to talk about it. You think the world is fucked up, and that's all you talk about is how fucked up it is. So why? My approach to spirituality is a process by which we would discover what it really means biologically. Where is that coming from? Okay, and your approach is ineffectual. I mean, you think you want to make a popular movement, but you're not going to have, but you can't handle having a conflicted conversation, and then that's mostly why people follow you, and the people that aren't following you specifically to see the conflict just already have your views. You're not convincing new people to think that way. You don't even see how some of your ideas have made me go, oh, okay, that's a good point. You don't even appreciate that as progress. And so it's just sort of designed to fail as a philosophical movement, I think. And you lack any curiosity about what's actually going on and any understanding that my approach to spirituality is trying to make it. Every time I brought this up, and it's many times that I brought it up, but I can't assume you or anybody else really understood what I was saying because I was so explicit. I would have to lie about it for you to understand it. Every time I liken it to lust and hunger, and I talk about people in the past, like 100,000 years ago feeling hunger, and that drives them to want food. But if they were to sit down and wonder, what is that feeling of hunger, they're likely to have metaphysical beliefs about it, just like we do with attraction to other people. It's fate and love at first sight, and God is telling me that's the one. But we have decomposed that down into the evolution and people, and this is, you can say the DNA wants us to reproduce, or you can just say the evolutionary process leads to a machine that has to have a means to reproduce. And so people don't think I should reproduce, they just have these feelings. And for some reason, in that soup of feelings, there is this spiritual feeling. And it is not like being hungry for food, it is not like being thirsty for water. It is its own feeling. And if anything, I suppose there's a chance you do understand that. And you don't want people to look into what that feeling says. Because maybe it's a feeling to survive. I don't think so. I think it's just as likely to be a feeling to fight unto the death when things are unacceptable. It's just as likely to lead to antinatalism if that's really, out there for people as anything else. Really, we don't know where it leads. Because as I was saying to Kurt, a much more, nicer person to talk to, even though he also has lost his cool and says, you're delusional and whatnot, is even though is that we are separated from this spiritual feeling, because I think if we had a legitimate spirituality, yeah, we would fight. We wouldn't accept being a slave. And, it's hard for me to accept that you are part of the continued enslavement, but you want people to end it all. So you have to make the world, you have to add suffering to the world. That's your goal, because you've already said it can't be better enough for you. So you're just one of these people that's going to add suffering to the world. It's going to take the psychological post-traumatic stress of being part of a generation after generation of slaves and spread that out into the world and make a horror in the world, because it's already horrible to you. You don't want it to have a glimmer, and you're afraid that following spirituality would be that glimmer. But I pointed out I don't think so. I think, following what seems like a spiritual thing can lead people to fucked up um, things that are negative, that just end up with you getting a lesson, right? Except for maybe you die and you as an individual don't get that lesson, but the rest of the world does. Not every single individual. And that's why Hitler was brought up, because Hitler was into a bunch of New Age spirituality, dumbass. All right? So maybe you just don't know enough about the world and world history to put what I say in context. All right? So I've decided your room's a waste of time. Okay? Because if I can't even go in there and just listen to what's going on, to hear some live conversation, if you're going to attack me and don't even want explanations, then I feel you should just not want to talk about that. And if I brought it up, I would understand you as the master of ceremonies in your mostly talking about movies and bullshit room, that you would say, well, I don't want to talk about that topic. I don't see any reason to. Fine. I also have 3 cards of notes to reply to you on the other topic we were talking about. We could have talked about that. Or frankly, I wasn't necessarily going to talk. I was just going to listen and see what was up. If you want to be the master of ceremonies, fine. But you're going to attack an idea, you misconstrue and misunderstand, don't want to let somebody answer for themselves. Well, you're not a very decent person in that case. You can think you're decent because you're nice to people. When you meet them in real life, you're polite, rather, and you meet them on the trail and stuff. But that's not good enough. Okay, you're not a decent person to me in the conversation, and you put yourself high on a pedestal that you have no right to be on, just because you're the master of ceremonies and get to discuss what topics which I'm perfectly willing to accept in your room, that we would discuss an overlap of topics that you and I are interested in. You can't make me talk about a topic I don't want to talk about, and you don't have to allow a topic you're not interested in your room. And you'll find I've always respected that. But you're going to watch videos of mine to somebody else on spirituality, and that's just too bad, Piro. I don't like you that you want to talk about that subject. Well, fuck you, Gary. I'll talk about whatever I want. And as a matter of fact, this feeling of spirituality, I think, is the most important topic. And the fact that it makes you so frightened is a good example of why. Because maybe if we answer that question, we'll want to live. And maybe you're like the canary that's going to suffocate as soon as it starts up again. So, yeah, I'm glad you unsubscribed to me, because I'm going to talk about that perhaps exclusively. It's just, too, it's like, or we could talk about science, another thing you don't understand at all. Jesus. Anyway, well, it's too bad, because I have sympathy for your emotional structure, but I just don't think that it's healthy or wise for me to keep pumping artificial value into that part of you that we have an overlap in subjects, that there's certain things about political progress that we would agree on, when in reality, you like making people miserable.